Welcome to Behind the Magic, a podcast from Aradia's Closet. I'm Tanya, your host. I am here with my friend Steven, and we are going through his library of over 3,000 books, 10 books at a time. So if you've been following along, we have gone through over 100 books now, with a few bonus books in between, and I will have guests later on. But we are going to just dive right into the first book.
Very randomly, too.
Very random. I just grabbed them off the shelf, and I'm going to put my eyeballs on. The first book is The Traveler's Guide to the Astral Plane. This was written by Steve Richards.
Right.
And published by Aquarium Press in 1983.
1983?
Yeah,
it's that old, really? Mm-hmm. Because I thought I came across his stuff in the 70s. He's also got two other books that we covered on the last episode that was about levitation or invisibility.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, same guy. This is a great little book. I really enjoyed this book. It was it's really a traveler's guide to the astral plane. It gives all sorts of anecdotal stories about people that slipped their mortal coil, as it were, and explored the astral plane, which is the next level of reality over. Really enjoyed this book. I don't know if it's still in print or not. It actually shows you how to explore the astral plane. 1983. And the final chapter, Chapter 8, is how to get there. It has Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C, and how you slip the veil, the next slide. Appendix C is the experience of Thespius of Soli and the other world as told by Plutarch. Okay, that was heavy. But I really enjoyed this book. It was a good book. I recommend it for people who are just trying to understand what people mean by the astral plane. I can tell you, if you bring it up at a party or something like that and start talking about the astral plane, you will have no friends. People will begin to leave.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll be there.
I don't know. I don't want to go to that party.
No, let's have an adult party. Yeah. But it covers suspended animation, near-death experiences, and astral sex. It's good stuff. Heaven and hell, and astral meditation. Very good practical workbook on how to get to the other side.
Fantastic. So our next book we have is Psychic Tarot, and this is by Craig Junjulas. Junjulas.
Yeah.
Junjulas?
They're probably softening that Y to a hungulus or something like that, like as in CG.
By Craig, I can't pronounce his last name.
Very good.
Starts with a J.
That's okay.
And it was published by Morgan & Morgan in 1985. Really cool.
1985? It took me this long to get around to this book. I love this book as a mainstay when I was working with the Aquarian Tarot. It's the Aquarian Tarot, for those who don't know, is a beautifully executed tarot from the 1970s. I love that tarot. It's kind of Art Nouveau. And it's,
I love Art Nouveau.
Oh, man, Art Nouveau. The countercultural and Art Nouveau. It's an intimate relationship. But yeah, I used to use this book all the time while I was reading the cards, because I never could actually remember all of the cards. Meanings. Yeah, I like this price. $8.95 I paid for this. That would be nice. How long has it been since you paid $8.95 for a book?
Oh, seriously. Even used books.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody knows what kind of book they have.
But Craig is very, very good. He was the director and Foundation for Psychic Development. He's a psychic consultant, educator, radio program host to lectures and practices in the New York area. His workshops involving developing psychic awareness through psychometry, photograph reading, aura reading, healing, and reading the tarot. He believes that everyone has psychic abilities and can develop them by using common sense and sincerity. And one of the quickest gateways to developing your psychic senses is simply taking a deck of tarot cards that you like and you can correspond with. And every day you shuffle those cards, you lay 5 or 6 out, whatever you like as far as numbers go, and you create a story about that. Okay? You just look at the pictures. You don't need a book or anything like that. You just look at the pictures and what are they doing in that sequence. Doesn't even have to make sense, but you do have to write it down. Right? And you continue like that until it becomes second nature.
Mm-hmm.
One time I was at a reading one night, and the guy who was reading was just terrible. He was just not good. And I looked at it and I went, bam, because I've been doing that exercise for a long time. And I did a whole other interpretation. And I might have embarrassed the other guy, but it was just so awful. He just was not reading the cards right.
Yeah.
And I read the cards for the guy, and he's like, oh, that makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, mister, but yeah, great book. Don't know if it's still in print. Psychic Tarot, illustrated with the Aquarian Tarot deck. Two things well worth having in your life.
Yes.
If you're in the metaphysics, Wicca, whatever, Psychic Tarot and the Aquarian Tarot deck.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the first ones. I think maybe the second tarot after the Rider-Waite tarot that I bought. It's so beautiful. I have a couple of. I have an original 1970s with the box.
Mm-hmm. You gave me a set.
Did I?
Mm-hmm.
That's awfully kind of me.
Yes, I know, right?
How about that?
I had my own set already, but mine was a brand new set. I don't care about somebody has to give it to you. I've had some. Yeah. Well, I've had some given to me, and I find that special. But
well, I'm glad I was a part of that.
So our next book we have is Egyptian Magic. And
Sir Wallace Budge, great Egyptologist.
Gatekeeper of the Egyptian and Assyrian Antiques in the British Museum. And this book was put out by University Books, but I couldn't find
the great University Books. Oh, it's going to be the 1960s or 70s. Yeah, it's got the Eye of Horus on the spine, University Books. This is probably a late... $5 for a hardback. Hello. Isn't that lovely? For those of you who are not familiar with University Books, they republished some of the great occult classics from the 1900s on up, 1800s on up. Well, we have a Library of Congress card catalog number, which is nice, but it doesn't tell us much. But this is, there was a huge popularity in the late 1800s with Egyptology. There's a lot of that going on. The British were over there uncovering the tombs of all these ancient pharaohs and discovering an amazing amount of Egyptian magic. And Sir Wallace Budge collated and collected a lot of that and wrote several books on Egyptian magic and theology and that sort of thing. One of the most prevalent books in an occultist library in the late 60s and early 70s was Sir Wallace Budge's Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Oh, mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's very popular.
There's a better version out now called Coming Into the Light, which I own too. It's better, and it's not so stratified in its writing style. I am glad to own this, and I'd like to talk for a moment about the actual publisher, which is University Books. Yes. University Books, can't say enough about them. Every witch, warlock, psychic investigator, tarot reader had a handful, at least, of University Books. They were just amazing. They put out stuff that classic. Every magician or warlock had A.E. Waite's Book of Black Magic and Pacts. Mm-hmm. It was standard on everything. That, of course, was published by University Books. And I think they were out of Secaucus, New Jersey. I'm not sure. But they did a really great job. And at the same time that they published all those great classics, they also published some Timothy Leary stuff.
Oh, my man.
Yeah. In the late 70s, he had... they published something called the Psychedelic Reader, which was a collection of all the great psychedelic works.
I need that book.
Yeah. Well, it's right there on that shelf.
I'm
looking at it right now.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. So beautiful stuff. I encourage our listeners to look around. eBay, places like that, even book fairs, book exchanges, and that sort of thing.
You got to put work into finding good books.
Oh my gosh, you do! And this library took a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of days off, just going through all kinds of old bookstores, used bookstores, that sort of thing. And a lot of eBay too. Really a lot of eBay. But yeah, investigate University Books because they're well worth having. They're well worth a look back. They're very valuable books. It's sometimes hard to find them on eBay now because they're so rare. Yeah. They're so rare. I own them. That's
right.
I'm the problem.
And you have every copy of first edition, second edition, third edition. Right, all of I can tell you how many times I've been through this library, and then I'm like, wait, there's 2 copies of that over there.
Yeah. So Sir Wallace Budge, Egyptian Magic, all about Egyptian magic, folk beliefs, all that sort of thing. It looks at the various amulets that were used for magic and sorcery back then.
Side note here, recommend reading Timothy Leary's autobiography, Flashbacks.
Oh, yeah?
It
Good?
was funny,
Yeah.
right? And then you hear these stories that happened, from his perspective, his point of view, because you hear stories about Timothy Leary.
Right.
But to hear his stories, we have to throw this cat away.
Yeah.
You stay there. Oh, goodness. Okay, now, back to it. Freaking have to chase the house cat back up the stairs. We have Tales of Witchcraft now. And this book is a collection of stories from Stephen King, Robert Bloch, M.R. James, Saki, E.F. Benson, and others. And this was published by Castle Books in 1994.
Yep, bargain table book. Doesn't have a broad art cover on it. It does have a candle ring on the back end of it. So apparently I used it as a impromptu altar at one time. Nice, huh? Yeah, this is a collection of stories about witchcraft. Bought it back in the mid-90s. It's probably a bargain table book. Might have been very bored. I like Castle Books, though. They have a really good stuff on the occult. That's probably the only reason I bought it. Well, some of the great Gothic writers are here. M.R. James with his short story, The Finstanton Witch. Robert Bloch, of course, the great sci-fi writer. He has something here called Catnip. Shamus Frere, The Yew Tree. Very nice. Very good stuff. 1991. The Witch's Cat by Manly Wade Wellman. Now, there's a writer's name, huh? Manly Wade Wellman.
Yeah.
I think I'll change my name. You can just call me Manly. And our old friend Stephen King is in here, and his interest is Grandma. Grandma. Yeah, what do you want to bet Grandma comes back?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I'll teach you for stealing my Social Security check.
Back in the heyday of Stephen King, I preferred Dean Koontz.
A lot of people did.
Really?
Yeah. I never really actually read Stephen King. I heard about him, but I never read him. Well, I was never really good with fiction, to tell you the truth. Always like nonfiction stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All the 90% of this is nonfiction stuff. I was probably looking for something to read at work when I bought this. It does have a candle. That had to be me practicing witchcraft when I didn't have the respect that I have for books.
Oh, yeah.
That I do now, because I would never do this with a book. I would never do that. But yeah, good stuff. Tales of Witchcraft. Stories by Stephen King, Robert Bloch, M.R. James, Saki, E.F. Benson, and others. Good stuff on a dark and stormy night.
Okay, up next, Hands of Light. A Guide to Healing Through the Human Energy Field. And this was written by Barbara Ann Brennan, illustrated by J.A. Smith. And it was written or put out by Bantam Books first in 1987 and then in 1988.
And this is courtesy of our friends at Hawsey's Books. And I picked it up for $9.95. Very, very good book on the process of healing by touch. It is thorough, to the max thorough. Don't know if it's still in print, but the illustrations are beautiful. This woman had clearly had some psychic experiences. She's got artist rendered color plates of some of her visions of people with. She can see the aura, and she apparently can diagnose from the aura. I just have the book. I don't have the talent, unfortunately. Hands of Light is your guide to new wholeness. It offers a new paradigm for the human in health, relationships, and disease. I understand of how human energy field looks, functions, is disturbed, healed, and interacts with friends and lovers. Training in the ability to see and interpret auras. I started out with pine trees. How about you? Medically verified case studies of healing people from all walks of life with a variety of illnesses. And if you're into the healing arts, I highly recommend it. A very good book. Mm-hmm. Solid reference. I enjoyed having it on my bookshelf.
How's that? It's like compared to Reiki.
I don't know anything about Reiki. Maybe if I read this entire book, I would.
Maybe. I have to confess, I had that book years ago. And
this one?
Yes, I did. And I never read it. Never read it. I don't know what happened to it.
Ah,
Probably gave it away.
Getting through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on the shelf that day.
Yeah.
I had $10 in my pocket, so.
Okay, so our next
I
book.
did start out with the Wars of Pine Trees when I started hanging out with magical folks in the '90s. They were like, okay, pine trees emit a great deal of psychic light.
Oh.
I'm sure you heard this too. I mean, you were around there, right? Yeah. So, you would soften your vision and look at the aura around the pine tree.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even kidding about
right.
this.
Yeah,
but I never got the hang of it. But I get that pine trees are they're evergreen, so of course they're going to have a powerful light emission.
That was back in the days of the 10th Insight or whatever. No, the Celestine Prophecies. It was back in the days.
Oh my gosh, for real?
Yeah.
That's right. The Celestine Prophecies.
The Celestine Prophecies.
I was supposed to read that, but I think that was a lot of nonsense.
I thought it was a great movement. I mean, if you were into it, you're into it, and everybody was into it, and everybody was feeling the energy. Nope. It was one of those things.
Now I was busy at home, slaving away over a hot cauldron.
Oh, yes, right.
I had no time for Celestine Prophecies.
I read all of them. The Celestine Prophecies.
I'm actually a very conservative witch.
You
when I think about it.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
I'm very traditionally minded.
Yes. I'm a bit conservative, which is one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, because
It's the only thing conservative about me. My social views are quite liberal.
Oh gosh, let's not talk about that. But
no,
let me tell you, there's a
people could be disturbed.
There's a girl that I follow. It's a group. Anyway, she has the Witches Library on Facebook. Yes, and she's collecting books left and right, and she's got an impressive library. But she would not have any of these books. I'm telling you what, nobody has these books, and it's becoming a lost part of the tradition of what I consider to be a witch.
Yeah.
When I call myself a witch, there's so many different connotations and ideas people have and preformed, prejudices, whatever they have about it. But to me, the knowledge in these books, this is the old magic, the old way. This is, what I mean when I say I'm a witch.
You know what I tell people when they ask if I'm a witch?
What?
I go, no, I don't believe in witches.
They ask me if I'm a good witch or a bad bitch, and I'm like such a bad witch. Don't even. Right. I'm such a bad witch. It's terrible.
Yes.
You don't even know the half of it.
I know. I see the evidence.
So our next book is an encyclopedia of fairies. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hobgoblins, brownies, boogies, and other supernatural creatures. And this was written by Catherine Briggs. And I think the publication house here says Pantheon. I don't remember hearing of that publishing house before, but it was put out in 1976. I was 1 year old.
1976. I graduated high school by then. Yay, me. But this is an eBay score. I can tell right off the bat. I didn't find it locally. It has a owner's name in the front. What is that? Hilda King? Maybe that's it.
I have no idea.
Hi, Hilda, if you're out there listening. I have your
book.
It's from 1977. This is an exhaustive reference book for all things fairy, pixies, trolls, everything. It's all here. This is an exhaustive study. Very good resource for writers if you're writing about fairies, if you're artistically inclined. These are a lot of the traditional ideas associated with fairies, various elemental spirits. And again, it's an exhaustive reference. You learn a lot right here. Yeah, this is Pantheon Books, New York. Probably an eBay score. Doesn't look like something I would have found locally. This is probably purchased in the 1990s.
It's a nice book.
Probably going to start looking for Catherine Briggs stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's see who Catherine Briggs was. Catherine Briggs was born in 1898. This is from the back flap, of course. One of three daughters of Ernest Briggs, the watercolorist. She studied English at Oxford, earning her Ph.D. with a thesis on folklore and 17th century literature, and became a D.Lit. Oxon in 1969. Her writings include The Personnel of Fairyland, The Anatomy of Puck, Folk Tales of England, The Fairies in Tradition and Literature, and the much-loved children's story Hubbardy Dick. She has been president of the English Folklore Society, has taught and lectured in American universities, and has made friends in many parts of the world. Very good, Catherine. Very good indeed. But this is a hardback. Again, indispensable if you're looking about anything as far as referencing fairies, hobgoblins, elves, all of it. And there's a lot of witchcraft in that too, of course, because those two things intersect.
The wee people.
Yes, the wee people.
Okay, our next book is The Crack in the Cosmic Egg. Ooh, that sounds right up my alley. Challenging Constructs of Mind and Reality. And written by Joseph Chilton Pierce. And it was put out by Julian Press in 1988. It is the groundbreaking New Age classic.
I don't know why I own it. I never read it. I never read it, but I think that I saw it in a somebody's bibliography at the end of another book, and I simply happened to come across it. Oh, let's stop right there. Let me see what have we got. Oh, look at there. Oh no, what I found. This is amazing. I found an old card I had made that has a occult symbol on it, the Star of David. It says my name, sorcerer, seer, and my phone number. Boy, I was a lot bolder back then, huh? Look at that.
Wow, that's
I used to hand those out to people.
Oh my goodness, look at you go.
Yeah, right. But that was apparently a bookmark, and I got 22 pages into this book and moved on.
I love the cover. I mean, that's right up my alley.
It's in great condition. Yeah. I don't know. We're digging really deep into this library, and I'm coming across things where I just purchased it. I read a little bit of it, and something else came along that arrested my attention far more than the previous book.
Yeah.
That's okay. One day when I'm old and retired, well, wait a minute, I'm already old. I'm just not retired.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. Right. I'll get around to reading this, but yeah.
Put it on the list.
Put it on the list.
I'm telling you what.
A Crack in the Cosmic Egg. That I remember that from somebody's bibliography. It's another more important book that I read. Probably about consciousness, cosmic consciousness.
Cosmic consciousness, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you and I both have a copy of that. You said I could have your copy.
What?
I
take it back.
Yeah, you're like, rah.
I love that book. No, I gave you a paperback copy.
Yeah, paperback copy.
Yeah,
I have a paperback copy too. It's a different edition because it's a different cover. But I love books on quantum physics and, and all of that kind of good stuff. I'm just like,
Right.
And people are like, oh, you must be smart. I'm like, no. Like, I understand it when I'm reading it. Like,
right.
And all the books on quantum physics I read are similar to magic books in a way, in that the beginning of the book, it talks about people and places and things and events that happen. It's kind of like you're going to a party and they're like, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's here. And you're like, oh, yes, I remember you.
Well, they're going to be there. I'm not.
And then as you read the book, okay, now that you've been introduced to the basic physics, now we're going to go into quantum physics, and I think but I remember reading one book, The Science of the Craft. And it was like that. He spent like
Didn't I turn you on to that?
He did. Along with the other book, let me get to that one. The Science of the Craft, the first quarter was basic physics. And then like half of the book was dedicated to quantum physics. And like the last quarter of the book was dedicated to how that translates to magic, doing magic.
Right.
But it's funny because I read that book after you suggested that I read The Holographic Universe.
Aha! Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, I sat down like 6 times trying to get my head wrapped around what they were trying to say.
Tough book.
Right, and then one day I'm sitting by the pool at the condo on the beach, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. And I started reading, and I read, and I loved it. It says, okay, here's a hologram, and here's how it works,
right.
And here's how it applies to near-death experiences and remote viewing and telekinesis and like all these different things. And it was a really good book. And then I went to you, so excited about all the things I had learned about the holographic universe. And you're like, I didn't read it.
I read the important parts. Some of it remind me of the idea of we are living in a hologram. Remind me of ancient Kabbalists who said that this was a valley of illusion.
The value of illusion.
It's the valley
Oh,
of illusion.
the valley of illusion.
Right. It's not real.
Hmm.
And,
Well, it's not real.
I
It's
know.
common
It's
to a lot
weird.
of
It gets weird here, okay? Because this is our idea of reality.
Mm-hmm.
But the next step over, the astral plane, is a whole different ball game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So there are multiple levels of reality.
Yes.
I think we can all agree on that.
We can definitely
But
agree
it gets real heavy.
It's all relative. It's about perception,
really
perspective, and all the things.
All the things.
All right, moving on. The next book we have here, The Great Mother, translated by Ralph Manheim. Now, what is this here? It says Eric Newman at the top, though, too.
Yeah, he's the editor.
The editor is Eric Newman.
Yeah, but he's editor and writer. It's, I think he was a German, probably.
So The Great Mother was translated by Ralph Manheim and then edited by Eric Newman into this book that we have in front of us.
Here.
Right, and it was published by Princeton and Bollinger in, well, this is the 7th edition. It was printed in 1991.
That's 1991, but I'm betting it's early.
7th edition, though.
Yeah, it's quite early. Second edition is 1963. Yeah, 1963. It's not that. Okay. I thought it was older. I think this is the 72 edition. But this is an excellent book on the manifestation of the goddess in culture and in consciousness. It's an exhaustive read. It requires tenacity to get through it because it's a lot of stuff. Visions of the Great Mother. People have experienced those visions, what they mean, and the history of human consciousness and evolution. She was the Great Mother, collectively known as Isis, Great Isis. We have millions and millions of artifacts from that era.
It looks like the Venus of Willendorf.
It is the Venus of Willendorf.
Yeah.
It is indeed. She lives on.
Yes.
I have a candle mold.
I know.
Yeah.
You've made me her candle before.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an exhaustive study of the Great Mother. I'm going to read a piece from the back end of the book. The whole title is called The Great Mother, an Analysis of the Archetype. Loving and nurturing, or hostile and devouring, the Great Mother is explored as a primordial image of the human psyche in this landmark book by the renowned analytical psychologist Eric Newman. Here he examines how this archetype has been outwardly expressed in many cultures and periods since prehistory, drawing on ritual mythology, art, and records of dreams and fantasies. Through a wealth of descriptive passages and reproductions of artistic works ranging from Paleolithic stone carvings to the sculptures of Epstein and more, Newman shows how the feminine has been represented as goddess, monster, gate, pillar, tree, moon, sun, vessel, and every animal form from snake to bird. In studying this array of both static and transformative images, Newman discerns a universal experience of the maternal as a dual source of life and support and fear, an experience rooted in the dialectical relation of growing consciousness symbolized by the child to the unconscious and the unknown symbolized by the Great Mother. I had a vision of the goddess when I was very, very young. I was about 13 or 14. Wasn't using any kind of drugs. I was 14, so it's not that. It was a profoundly moving experience, and that's what's brought me to this moment in my spiritual life. I understood, but I didn't hear. She impressed upon me the idea that life is ongoing. There's no such thing as death. It's an illusion. We live on past the mortal coil. There's a plan, and she has that plan. Although it doesn't seem like it, everything is going as she wills it to go. She is infinite, divine, nurturing. She's, of course, has a dark side, that Hecate side. If you had problems with your own mother growing up, I wouldn't read this book because it gets into some territory that gets really uncomfortable. Oh. You begin to see yourself in the mirror of how you were raised by your own physical mother. A typically flawed human being.
Well,
okay, so what?
Flawed, yeah.
You know, a lot of times we put women on a shelf. We put them on a pillar, right? And well, I have. You know, I've had my occasions, but we as a collective of people, you know, we have high regards and perhaps we put too much responsibility on frail human beings. So, it's a great book. Glad I own it. I don't think I ever read the entire thing. It's a good reference book, that's for sure. I have a note here. Oh, very good. It's a shopping list.
Of course.
Yeah, used as a bookmark. Oh, okay, this is where I stopped reading.
Yeah,
Well,
we
this is
talked
one
about
place.
that before.
Yeah.
Like
So
every
yeah,
time
I
you
was
find
looking
it.
at this chapter is called Lady of the Beast, and I was intensely interested in that because I was always interested in witches have a kind of natural affinity for animals.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Nature.
We make friends pretty quick. Sometimes they're our only friends.
Yes.
The only friends we can actually rely on. I liked it.
Moving on, I want to go to a sidebar and look at the camera. Yes, it's a podcast, and we've been doing really great not being on camera, but now we're going to try something new and be partly on camera. So for those of you who are listening on Pandora, Apple Music, Spotify, go and check us out on YouTube, where you will see a video version, which is why I'm all kind of weird, because I always get nervous when I do videos anyway, and so now we're doing the podcast. Here we go. Back to it. Book number 9.
Book number 9.
Practical Sigil Magic, Creating Personal Symbols for Success. This is another book that's right up my alley. And it is written by Frater Udi.
German guy, obviously.
The illustration is by June Zinner in 1990. This was put out by Llewellyn Publications. I'm surprised. I have to look it up. It might be part of, Llewellyn put out a practical magical series. Buckland was part of that series, but this is definitely, I love rune magic. I love making these and using them with poppets or using them with just all kind of, anyway. Llewellyn Publications, 1996.
What you have there, my friend, is a very, very rare book that took me a long time to acquire on eBay. It was very, very expensive in the 1990s. Sometimes very, very rare. This is, of course, Chaos Magic, very, very popular back in the late 80s and 90s. Some critics call it the Masturbate and Make-A-Wish School of Magic. Aside that, I'm glad I own this book. Very good book. It goes through, basically, sigil magic comes from a magician named Eosphere. But this shows you how to render practical Austin Osman Spare's sigil magic. He was rediscovered in the 80s and 90s and became a part of something called Chaos Magic, which the average passerby would surely mistake Chaos Magic for something quite awful. It just has to do with the chaos theory of magic. It's quite a conversation.
Well, there's pattern in chaos.
Yes.
It's a mathematical thing.
It's that gets us back to our physics course. It's a school of physics, chaos physics, that sort of thing. Right, but it tells you how to go about doing it. Sometimes Mr. Spare was quite demure when he talked about his system of magic. Which is, if you work at the mall, for crying out loud, there used to be bookstores in malls, and that's how a lot of this came about.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, just be slow at work and wander down to the bookstore and go, oh, look.
B. Dalton Books and Walden Books.
Yeah,
always
you remember.
Mall bookstores.
Yes, those were great. Those were great stores that were in the malls back in the.
Here we have Barnes & Noble and Books A Million for our major chain stores.
I was over at Books A Million the other night. They moved the section again.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. Apparently, it's called the personal growth section now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, back in the 70s. Victor and I were talking about this last night. We're talking about, it's personal growth now. Back in the day, you just walk in and go, where's the occult section? And then right over there. And you're like, okay.
It was a New Age section.
New Age?
New Age. And then it went to Body, Mind, Spirit.
Body, Mind, Spirit. Exactly what I
what's
encountered over there. Body, Mind, Spirit. That's what I encountered. Yeah,
it's terrible.
I know. And it was just boring.
Right.
I saw a pretty book, though. It was a pretty black book with silver end on the end papers.
Right. There's a lot of really pretty books out there. So
it was only $14.95, And it was a
Right.
hardback, but it instantly put me off as preachy. I was thumbing through it and everything, and they're all about the threefold law, which some of us agree with, and some of us, like me, they're not particularly into it. You know. Sorry, all you New Age witches out there. Not everybody's on board with "and it harm none, do as you will."
Right.
I've always thought that's thoroughly idiotic.
Oh, I like the saying that black or white magic is poetry and black magic is anything that works.
All right, who is that?
I don't know.
That was the guy. I know who that is. That's the guy, Andrew. No, okay. Well, we'll have to remember that in editing or whatever. But
Right, pop it up on the stream for the
yes,
YouTubers.
right.
We've got one book left.
One,
One
and
book
it's
left.
a big book.
It's a big book, and it's a wonderful book.
It's
Save
a
the best for
wonderful
last.
book.
But first,
It's a pretty book.
it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to the last book, I want to say if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications so you can
We'll be back.
know, the next 10 books come out.
You'll want to know.
So here we are, the last book, The History and Practice of Magic by Paul Christian. It was published by Citadel Press in 1967. Well, 1967 was the third public printing of this book, and I love it. It's just gorgeous.
It's just gorgeous with a black and purple cover.
Mm-hmm.
The old English script
Oh, it's
on the
gorgeous.
front cover.
It says the great classic of occultism in a modern English translation.
Yes.
With supplementary articles and notes by modern authorities, edited and revised by Ross Nichols. This is one of those books that
It's just beautiful.
you have to have
It's
in your
got that
library.
nice Solomonic sigil on the front and the back. Yep. Yeah. Big old boy. Yes, indeed. And this is the history and practice of magic, and it used to belong to Susan d'Antuone, I think. But that's the ex libris sticker in the front. An exhaustive study of the history of magic. Shows some ancient examples. Alchemy, magic, all of it's covered in this one big volume. I have a 2-volume set of this. 2 hardback copies. But here they've put it all together in one book instead of 2. Just going through this, it's just full of all sorts of odd pieces of magic and that sort of thing. I like this. If you capture falcons, hawks, or other birds of prey, it means success. And that's what I do. I go out and look for falcons, hawks, and other birds of prey so I can be successful. These birds are essentially those which conquer other birds. Hence, capture them signifies that victory is in your grasp. The victor is vanquished. A lot of stuff like that. It's a hodgepodge of various beliefs, ancient magic. It's illustrated with some really cool. I love this kind of stuff. The pentagrams and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is the talisman of Mars, talisman on the sun on the opposing page, talisman of Venus. Good stuff. Very big book.
I love it. It's one of those just like ancient texts that you have to have on the shelf.
Yeah, because it covers like everything.
This is the kind of book. I know you've seen The Vampire Diaries against your better judgment, but I love those shows, and I think about these kids that are at these schools, and they're always saying, I remember seeing that in a book, or I read that in a book, or if they have a problem, they hit the books. And that's the thing about these books. They're reference books, but at the same time, you still kind of have to know what they are and what they're about and read some of it. Like the new book that you got, and I was going through it, and I read it last night. I read the intros to the chapters, but it would list out things like the different supplies that you need, like textiles or whatever, and it would just list a whole bunch of them. And I'm like, okay, I'm not reading the list. No. I know I'll read what it says about textiles, and then I know where I can come back and find the list.
Exactly. The majority of these books on the shelves are reference books. They're read for looking up various aspects of magic and that sort of thing. Like something might pop up, or something might remind me of something I read in one of these books, and I'll go and look it up. There was a horror film out a while back ago that mentioned the demon Paimon. And so I had to go look up Paimon. P-A-M-O-N. Yeah, I think it's called Hereditary.
Hmm.
Brilliant horror film. And so I had to go and look up Payman, figure out what his deal was, because he was now a superstar in a big Hollywood movie. And sure, he appreciates it.
He's a demon doing things right.
Yes, indeed. Right, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is the end of that.
That is the end of that.
For this time.
Thank you guys so much for joining us again. Stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications so we go through the next 10 books.
Namaste.